Hello, everyone. It is coming up on 2 o'clock on the West Coast. I'm turning my phone off. I don't know about you, but I have been having, and I don't think it's I'm going to say I don't think it's my age or that I tend to be pretty tech savvy, but having a lot of weird tech issues. And today we're going to talk about, like we do, the sun, moon, and the stars, and things that get in our way. We had a very powerful release class last night, and if any of you are joining us from that class, it's an opportunity to put things in the chat. In fact, I have the chat open, and you want to ask any questions. Um, Josh says he's been having tech issues too. For example, last night on Zoom, weirdly, all of a sudden I'm just starting the Zoom process. And now this is YouTube Live, and so it's a different platform. But I was on Zoom that I use every day for my telehealth appointments, for groups, for classes, for things. So I'm very familiar with it and I'm very comfortable with it. And all of a sudden, and there were dozens of people on this class, and all of a sudden, all these hands, you know how they have the raise hand function? Well, all of a sudden, all these hands started raising, and I'm trying to, this is a meditation. And so usually I don't get questions before the meditation. If I get any questions at all, I get them after the meditation. Well, all these hands started popping up, and it makes this weird popping sound. And so I'm dizzied by all these hands. And I ended up for no reason. And all of the participants, the students that were there, that said, I didn't do it, it did it on its own. And there were half a dozen to a dozen of them that just went up like that. And then I got the new phone. I got the new iPhone 16 Pro Max, and I've got it protected and screen, all that stuff. And it's been acting up, and I have to reboot it a bunch of times. I tried recording an Instagram video this morning, and it recorded with no sound, but that's been happening a lot. Now, I say this not to complain. I have a belief system. You don't have to believe it, but I think that a couple things. Number one, that there is so much stuff now going on in the universe and on the planet in terms of uh, okay, that's so Amber, I'm gonna since this is public here, I'm gonna say, oh my gosh, so short fused, angry, ready to blow my top and take names. So sorry for the dumb question last night. No worries. Lazy, and I should not have assumed. You were. Okay. So Amber, yeah. So we're bombarded by these energies, and I believe it messes with our technology. Um, I just did a psychological test. So I'm a therapist. I'm here at the clinic. I've got my badge, and I'm quite official. I'm a doctor, and we did an ADHD test, which is it's not really online, but it's a computerized test that we give patients where they have to respond to things on the screen, and then that measures their proclivity or likelihood of a diagnosis of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And the TV was weird, and the computer was weird, and the poor patient kind of didn't know how to act. I mean, I'm sure that I'll get the results here probably while I'm on this call with you guys about the results of that test. But my point is, I think sometimes that with all this um, with increasing frequency, we can tend to feel isolated. I do have a concern about now. This is a double-edged sword. It's a dichotomy. I think we're actually more connected than ever. If you think about historically, your grandparents, great grandparents, we, lived in smaller groups and smaller families. Um, it was different. I'm of a certain age where I remember, walking to school in elementary school. And if I acted out on my way home, by the time I got home, my mom was waiting for me. The parent network knew that I had done something. And so by the time I got home, I was in trouble because I couldn't get away with anything because all the parents watched out for all the kids, and all the parents would discipline. And I'm not talking about beatings now, but I'm talking about that the parents had this implicit permission to discipline or correct other people's children. That doesn't happen today. And heaven help you, should you try to correct someone else's child in public that you don't know, or try to correct a family member's child, or try to offer parenting advice to one of your children or relatives. Anyway, I digress. My point is, I have people, let's talk about this continuum, this spectrum of the human condition. Um, I co own and operate a clinic in Las Vegas. It is a mental health clinic. It is medical. It's normal. Uh, Bear with me. It's normal, meaning people don't come here for psychic readings. People don't come here for huna. They don't come here for meditation. They don't come here. They come here. They're poor. They're indigent. They're veterans. They're low income families. We take all different kinds of insurances: Medicaid, Medicare, VA, TRICARE, all that stuff. And they come here for medication. They come here for group. They come here for therapy. They come here for assessment. They come here for support, and we offer a variety of programs and services. Now, we also offer, this is not a pitch for Heads Up. You've heard about Heads Up, and you can find out about Heads Up. People say, to me, how can I work with you directly? And, you can work with me directly in person here at Heads Up or here in Las Vegas. I have a rather global reach because I travel a lot. I do lots of different things. And so, my commitment to you all is that if you're here in Las Vegas and you need free counseling, you can get it. If you need free group therapy, you can get it. If you need free medication's a little harder, but we can help you apply for Medicaid or indigent services to make sure that you get the medication that you need, and so on. Now, take that all the way up to that I work with physicians and I'm an executive coach and I do trainings for physicians and I work with pretty high end people in my history, not currently, but in my history, I've worked with billionaires as a therapist and as a coach. I've worked with and teach in Hawaii in a variety of capacities. As a teacher of Huna, Hawaiian studies. I'm on the faculty of 30 universities and 5 medical schools. My point is, there is a broad spectrum of the human condition that I'm exposed to. And a consistent theme lately, last few months really, has been this feeling of just tension. And I had a guy came in yesterday for the first time. Okay, so yesterday was November 7th. Election was over. A veteran. I'm going to be careful because I don't have permission to talk publicly about him. But he came in yesterday, and he was just, completely innocently saying, "I don't understand what's going on. I don't even pay attention to politics. I don't even pay attention to the election, and I'm feeling so agitated and so intense." And he goes, "And the thing is over. It's a done deal." And the guy I wanted to won, right? And still. And so my point is, and the purpose of today, certainly for those of you, and a couple of you are on today that were on the class last night, um, I make the excuse about technology. Zoom was acting really funny, and inadvertently, there was no recording of last night. And so, Michelle's going to be sending out an email to all of you that attended last night, sending you a different recording and offering you another free session next month when we do Ho'oku'u again. So, Ho'oku'u, for those of you that are not aware, is this monthly subscription series that I offer for people to release baggage, release negativity. It's a meditation, it's a guided process. It's one of the Hawaiian huna techniques that I teach. And it has been um, really successful. So I've been running that particular program for 5 years, coming up in February. It was February 5th, I think, to 2020, at the dawn of COVID, that I started offering these online things. Now, I think I do pretty well staying on top of things. And I had a concern that energy might not transfer over the internet because this is an energetic process. We're not going to do it today, but I'm going to talk about it and wait to see who shows up and see if there's any questions. Amber, I think you were here last night. Um, and it includes meditation. It includes post hypnotic suggestion. It includes some open eye, closed eye, which in hypnosis is called fractionation, which takes the trance deeper. It includes Hawaiian chanting. It includes Hawaiian symbols or energetic, like Reiki type things, sent to stimulate the release of negativity. We look at negative emotions, anger, sadness, fear, and guilt. We look at limiting beliefs, limiting decisions, and we just invite the unconscious mind to release. Um, and we treat the unconscious mind like this third entity, if you will. And if you've studied with me at all or studied neurolinguistic programming or psychology, you understand that we have, well, a number of aspects to ourselves, but one particular lens that we look at is that we have a conscious mind. Now, if you're awake and alert and you're listening to this and you're talking to me, you were talking at the conscious level, and that is important. The conscious mind runs the body. The conscious mind, um, you know. And thank you, Amber. I'm sad too because it was an amazing session last night. So I have to believe there was a reason why it didn't record, and I'm just going to choose that because I was pretty bummed. But Michelle sent me a note to, okay, we're ready. Students are ready for the recording, and I kept looking for it. I went into Zoom, and it usually catalogs the recordings because I record a lot of things, not just that, a lot of sessions and things, and it was not there, and it's didn't happen. So I choose to believe. You can call me delusional if you want, that there was a reason why it didn't record. We will do it again. Rome wasn't built in a day, and so that's great. And I'm glad that you have that. Maybe that's why you needed another month to sign up again. So that's awesome. Um, can you, Amber, would you just respond? Can everyone or Josh see the chat? I want to respond to the chat, and I want to make sure that people who are not interested in chatting can still see the chat. Josh, can everybody that's on the call or on this particular live see the chat? Yes. Okay. So when I'm responding to Amber or to Josh or to somebody, you guys know that that there's other people on the call as well. Okay. Um, so my point is not as an excuse, but I think sometimes we can feel victimized. We can feel downtrodden. We can feel as though no matter what we do, it's not enough. I'm speaking for myself now. Sometimes we can feel demoralized. Um, and there's an interesting statistic out there, and this is an America statistic. Sometimes I will offer you statistics that are global. This one's in America. 80% of the people in America, and this statistic has remained constant over the last 70, 80 years now, believe that more power resides outside of themselves than inside of themselves. And I'll explain what this means. It's called the locus of control. It's a psychological theory. And it's where the person believes control rests in their life. Meaning, do you believe that you are in charge of your destiny? Are you in charge of your fate? Are you in charge of what happens to you? Do you have a measure of control? So it's called locus, which is the root word for location of control, which means where do you feel in charge? And the statistics that have been done since the 60s, I think 65 or 66, I have a textbook here in the office from way back then. I'm that old. Says that 80% of Americans believe that they are out of control, that they have no control, or they have very little control. And how that shows up in humans oftentimes is in their language, where instead of taking ownership, they will use an excuse or they will use an external uh, something to justify or rationalize. And this is the dog ate my homework, you don't understand, the sun was in my eyes. Um, and this is where we get into where do you perceive control rests in your life now? And I want to talk about this because it's a very crucial time right now. I'm going to say at my age, and I'm 65, that I am better at recovering more quickly from shit, from stuff, from the patterns and things that happen in life. Um, I recover quickly, I think, because of these tools like like HUNA, like NLP, hypnosis, psychotherapy, the things that I do that I practice, nutrition, wellness, self care, exercise, blah, 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 all that stuff that we talk about. I am better at recovering. Now, and this is important, and I've told some of you have heard this story. I studied Aikido in the 80s with a Japanese master, a little Mr. Miyagi looking character, little tiny guy. Couldn't have been 90 pounds wringing wet. I am 6'3". Today I'm 210 pounds. Then I might have been lighter, but I towered over him. And I took this Aikido, which is a martial art. It's a self-defense kind of thing. It's in the karate, judo, taekwondo family. And I'm sure that that's wrong. I'm sure somebody's going to go, it is not anywhere near that, but you get the picture. It's a martial art. Let's just say that. And I studied it for a while, for a couple of years. And Mr. Miyagi, not his real name, took great joy in taking us down. Now, this was a men's class. It was young men, all in their late 20s, kind of committed to fitness, beefy, working out, strong, virile, hunky young guys, right? And Mr. Miyagi took great joy in taking us down to the floor. So, there would be it's a contact defense kind of a thing. And Amber says it's a pit bull of martial arts. It is. And so, two things that I have never forgotten about Mr. Miyagi, not his real name. And if you know the reference to Karate Kid, you'll kind of chuckle about it. But there was a movie back in the day with a Japanese master kind of sensei sort of character named Mr. Miyagi. He would take great joy in taking us to the floor. He taught us a lot of things around this particular martial art, around stance and around takedowns and around self defense and things like that. And it was magical in that it seemed like he could wave his little finger, and before I knew it, I was on the floor. It was not a strength move. He used energy. Now, I didn't know any of this then. He used energy, and he was a very skinny, lightweight guy, and it wasn't brute strength. And I remember repeatedly, and he would giggle. Oh, he would just giggle because he just thought it was so funny. He thought we were a train wreck, of young men, and we were. I remember one day in class, he said, so one of the other young men, I wish I'd asked the question. I didn't, but one other young man in my class, Kent was his name, said, Sensei. We called him Sensei, which means master in Japanese. Sensei, do you ever get off center? And he paused, this very long sensei like pause. And he said, of course I get off center. You can't be in a human body and not be influenced by what's around you. He said, I just don't stay there very long, like you idiots. He just let that hang in the air. He said, I watch you and you have a relationship drama or a money drama or a job drama or a family drama, and you wallow in self pity for weeks and months. And he's rolling his eyes. And he has the accent. He spoke English flawlessly, but he had a Japanese accent. He was originally from Japan. And this is my point today. And if you can think of that, some of you are old enough to remember the clowns, the blow up clowns that were like you'd push them over and they'd come back. They were like a balloon sort of thing, and you'd push them over and they would come back. And it was almost like a boxing thing that a kid, they're for children, and you'd hit them and but they would always go back to center. They would always go back to center. A cat always lands on its feet, right? And his point was that while we can't directly control what happens to us, we can directly control our reaction and, well, our reaction and how long we hang out with whatever it is. And that never left me. This week, look, I was bummed when the recording, I thought it was going to be a really good recording. And it would have been a really good recording. So I was really disappointed. And that happened this morning. That's what's 2 o'clock now. It was happened this morning about 10 or 11, where I kept looking for the recording because I wanted to send it out to all the students, and it was not there. And I had a few seconds of crap. Crap. Now, it's not the end of the world. Don't get me wrong. I know that there are going to be students that are disappointed. We'll figure it out. We'll do it again. I'm not going to charge anybody for it. I didn't charge for last night. We'll do it again. And I can blame technology, and I can also blame my karma with technology, and I can blame my relationship with technology, and I can blame my age, and I can have a litany of excuses of why that didn't happen. I can't own all of it. I can own some of it. And this is the self evaluative part of life. You have to own your stuff. And this is the locus of control piece. What we find is that 80% of the time people are from an external point of view. And that falls into two categories. One are strong, powerful others. And I'll just use this a simple syntactical language. I can't because they, and the language is they. They won't let me, they did it to me, they, whatever, dot, dot, dot. They, he, she, it. I can't because of my partner, I can't because of my spouse or my kids or my can't, I can't. Now, I'm going to try to say this in a way that is more metaphorical and metaphysical than literal. There are absolutely real life things that happen. I can't come to the party because I have to take care of my kids, or I have to do something else, or I can't go to the park all day because I have a job that I have to go to. Now, that's a true statement, it's not a lie. And if we are feeling victimized by virtue of our choices, why do I have to work so hard? I used to do this. Some of you know I had cancer, and for 2 years I struggled with cancer. I'm in remission now. I've done very well, much healthier now. But I held my career and my job and the clinic, and I have to do this and I have to do that. And I was working 16 to 20-hour days sometimes, which is, I think, why I got sick. Now, it's not helpful for someone to look at me and say, well, you did this to yourself. I came to that solution. I came to that answer. I don't know that I could have heard it at some point if somebody was said, well, you're really working too much. You're really, you got to slow down. You got to slow down. So my point here is that where do you hold control lies? I'm using the word control very specifically. There are only a few things, and I'm make a fist, there's only a few things that we can directly control. And that's our behavior, what we do, and how we think. That's pretty much it. Um, Sorry. I wish I had better news. You can only control what you do, how you think. Now, there are people that will argue with me and say, well, I can't control my thinking. My thinking is all over the place. I have no idea what and how my thinking impacts. I have no clue as to how it happens. And so you can influence things. You can influence other people. You can influence your situation. And then there are a whole host of things that are beyond you. And what I see when people are the most frustrated is they're trying to put effort against those things that they have actually no control over. I remember landing in a town, it was East Coast, Boston maybe, and the person picking me up, it was raining, as it does in Boston, and they apologized for the rain, like they did it. And I'm being a bit obtuse here, but this woman who was picking me up at the airport, I was going to be training a group. This was for the company, Reebok was the name of the company. You may have heard of it. And I was the guest speaker, trainer, coach. And I was going to be working with a group of salespeople. And she picked me up there because I'm so, so sorry it's raining. And I said, oh, thank you. It's okay. I wanted you to have a good time. Well, whatever her name was, I can still have a good time. The rain happens, I can still have a good time. But you can hear presupposed in her language that somehow she wishes she could have controlled the rain. And because it's raining, I can't enjoy myself. Now, I'm being kind of nitpicky here about language. You know, it is important to understand that if you feel victimized, if you feel done to, if you feel like a victim, then that's a choice you're making. Now, make no mistake, there are people who are victims that are victims of abuse and victims of violence and that kind of thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, in terms of your own self evaluation, how much of the time do you look for the solution that you can do? Like, what about this can I control? What about this can I influence? I knew that once I realized the recording was gone, I had to let it go. And that's hard. I had to surrender to it. I realized that when I woke up that morning, I guess it was yesterday morning after the election. Was it yesterday or day before? I think it was Wednesday morning. I woke up, new day, election over, new president, surrender. I'm out. No more, I have to. Now, there are people throughout my daily clinical life who are going to be upset for a very long time. They're going to be holding on to this for a very long time. I am not saying I'm better. I'm saying that I just don't choose to hold on to this. And I do get accused sometimes of being pie in the sky and Pollyanna, and that I should, my head's in the sand. But I realize there's nothing about this that I can directly control. I'm going to do the best I can to help people. Amber has a question. WTF up with behavioral health? Is there a guide? What is acceptable and unacceptable? I'd sure help a gal get along if she knew her parameters in advance. I'm not sure in terms of behavioral health what you mean. There are, three aspects to it. There's psychotherapy, there's medication, and then there's just physical health. And getting what I do here, depending on where you are, that help can be hard to get. It can be expensive and it can be hard. And the Parity Act in the United States a few years ago, which dictated to insurance companies that mental health had to have equal parity, was the word, parity, to physical health. I don't think we're there. I don't think before that the premise. Okay, keep going, Amber. I want to answer your question. I just need to understand your question. Behavioral health, in my mind, is also mental health, emotional health, behavioral health. We call it. We use the word behavior to kind of a bucket. Oh yeah, it used to be called mental health. Absolutely. I think it's political. I mean, well, no, I don't think it's just a nice word. Mental health, psychiatric health, psychological health, mental health, emotional health. To me, it's all the same thing. Yeah. And the cool thing about behavioral health, coming from that point of view up against locus of control, is our behavior is really the only thing that we can control. And it's really, really hard. You know, behavior is not English. Oh, it's English. I guess I'm confused. You'll just keep writing until I figure it out. Where do you feel as though control rests in your lives? So, up against humans, I have a litany of people coming into the office who have trauma and who um, blame, attribute, have a cause, saying that I can't move on because I was abused. I can't. Now, I'm not, understand, this is real stuff. I am not um, in any way diminishing trauma. I mean, we have a veterans program here, and I hear some of the most heinous things. We have one guy in our group who's a sniper, who was a sniper. And just to hear his stories of Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Iraqi freedom, and being a sniper and what that was like. And I'm not going to go into it, but he's the one, and you've heard me mention this movie, HBO miniseries called Generation Kill, and that was based on his time in the military. And it was really a good show. I watched it. I highly recommend it. And I know I'm kind of all over the place here, but each of us has stuff to do. Each of us has a mission, a purpose, a path. We have a reason for why we have incarnated. Um, and I think we go about our lives trying to figure that out. Ernest Hemingway said, in the 19th century, 20th century, early 20th century, most people lead lives of quiet desperation. So I think most people, um, and now with social media, we have wonderful access to really cool things. I love the travel videos, and I love the people like in orchestras that can give you a window into what it's like to be an orchestral musician, or performers, or any of that. I think it's interesting to see the world through others' eyes, and I think given social media and given these platforms, we're starting a substance abuse group in at Heads Up in January, and we have tried since COVID to run live groups. Now we have an intensive outpatient program. This is going somewhere, so pay attention. We have a live and hybrid online live group for veterans that's going very well. But we've had a hard time populating other groups: depression, teens, parenting, anger management, whatever it is. And I finally asked the student group today, who are from 22 to 30 graduate students, why can't we get people to show up? And they just shook their heads that it's got to be online. So if you offer a group therapy online, you'll get more people. that if they don't, but if they have to get in their car and come to the clinic, they're not going to come. So we're going to try that. So look for it in January. It's going to be a substance abuse group. We will offer it in person and online simultaneously. A lot of places are doing that now, and we'll see if we can get more people. Um, Now, having said that, I started with that people are more isolated than ever before, and I get that too. That people are spending increasingly amounts of time online, alone, with their computer, with their phone, with their tablet. Um, I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think it's only bad if it's bad. Parents bring their teenagers in and say, our kid is just on video games constantly. Well, does he have any friends? Well, all of his friends are online, and that's COVID. Sorry, we're still feeling the effects of that. All their friends are online. All of our activities are online. You're watching me online. You're watching a replay. You're watching it live. And I think it's really cool that we can do this. And I don't think there's any substitute for real human interaction. That at some time or another, we need to interact with humans. And I attended a training this week on being a supervisor for interns. And the in mental behavioral health, the particular board that I was studying with here in Nevada said that they don't believe interns should do, this is psychotherapy now, telehealth. That they interns need to learn how to interact with people in person, in an office, live. And some of the people on the call were pushing back, saying, "Well, yeah, but I don't, I'm an intern and I don't aspire to ever work in an office." And I'm old fashioned. Call me old fashioned. I don't think you can be a good therapist and only learn online. Once you're fully licensed and you have your credentials and you've done all of your paces, I think it's fine to do telehealth. I don't like exclusively telehealth. I still like seeing people in person. Call me crazy. Call me old fashioned. I really like having the person in the office. And I could show you my office. It's nothing fancy. It's small, but it has a couch and a few chairs and some bookcases and a coffee table. And people come in and I really like it. I don't mind telehealth, but similarly, I also really enjoy live classes and teaching classes live. I'm teaching more classes online than ever before. Um, I don't know if we're going to get to the place where everything, our whole lives are online. There was a cartoon movie a few years ago called Wall-E, Wall, and it was about a robot. It's a cartoon, sort of a Pixar kind of movie, where the whole human race, everybody became uh, online all the time. And that everything was automated, and people didn't walk anymore. They floated around on these air beds, and they had their it wasn't even a laptop, it was like an iPad. Food was delivered to their airbed that they floated around with. The earth had become uninhabitable, so we were in spaceships and things like that, and that the human body was no longer capable of sustaining its weight because they had been weightless for so long and so on. And I get concerned sometimes that we're going there, where that we don't ever have to see anyone in person. So, how do you look at whenever you are blaming someone else, something else, a situation, and you feel victimized, that shows that your locus of control is more external, meaning whether it's luck. Now, I do this. You've heard me do it. Well, it's Mercury in retrograde. Well, it's Saturn return. Well, it's the Schumann resonance. Well, it's the election. Well, uh, I have seen Snowpiercer. Yeah, Amber. Um, and I want to be careful. Things do happen outside of us, and still we are the one that has to take action. Have you ever been upset about something and you're noticing no one else is upset about it? You're raging inside or having this really snit about a particular thing, and you look around to the people in your environment. Nobody else seems to think that's a big deal, but you do. That's what I'm talking about. That it's important for you to self evaluate, take ownership for the feelings that you have. Now, clearly, if you're pointing the finger at someone else, as my mother would say, three fingers are pointing back at you, that there's something about you that needs some examination. And bad things happen to good people, and people are evil, and there are some people are evil, and some people, given the chance, will do nasty, evil things to others. And still, at the end of the day, it's up to us And so when I do a trauma history, who did I have recently? It doesn't matter, but it was a male, I remember. And he talked about child sexual activity with an older boy. Now, this guy was not gay, married, kids. And I've gone through my intake and I was just saying, is there any sexual abuse? He kind of went, well, I don't know. And I said, well, okay, what is it? And he goes, well, this is awkward. I've never told anybody about this, but I was, you know, molested, fondled by an older boy who was a couple years older than me, like at a camp or something. And I said, was it upsetting to you? He goes, not really. I told him to stop it and he stopped it. I said, did you ever have any did it ever do you think about it? No. Does it bother you? No. Does it bother bringing it up? Because, well, I'm a little embarrassed. I was 8, other kid was 10. It was, you know, camp, middle of the night kind of fondling thing. I pretended to be asleep and then I just told him to knock it off and, swatted him and told him to get him away from me. And he did. And that was the extent of the trauma. Now, I will tell you, there are people for whom that would have been hugely traumatic and reason for therapy. This guy had other reasons for therapy. That was not one of them. So while each of us comes through life and we have all sorts of experiences, good, bad, and ugly, what we do know is that humans are very resilient. And I'm really, really impressed because here at the clinic, I see some pretty heinous, horrible, horrible things. Um, and not everybody responds the same way. So your history, whatever it is, you may look at it and some of it to someone else may sound horrific. But to you, it's like, well, that was my life. I didn't have a father. That was okay. So my thing is, my father died when I was about 15 months old. He died of lung cancer. I never knew what it was like to have a father. And so when I went to first grade in those days, everybody would ask, what does your daddy do? This is in the 60s. What does your daddy do? And I'd say, well, I don't have a daddy. Where is he? He's dead. Now, I learned really quickly by seeing the teachers' faces and the other students' faces and the other parents' faces that for them it was horribly traumatic that I, as a 6-year old or a 7-year old, didn't have a daddy. To me, it was I didn't know anything different. And so I just kind of didn't know how to act because I was not grieving. It was not upsetting to me. And so do your own self-evaluation. Evaluate for you what is hanging out, what is remaining. And then take ownership for it. So then if 80% of Americans are operating on the external locus control, meaning they're looking for external reasons why they can't, 20% of you are operating on more of an internal locus of control, which means you take as much ownership for things as you can. Now, some of you, overachievers, may take more ownership for things than you should. Um, and I'll explain that. You are not the center of the universe. I'm sorry, but you are not. And you are not responsible for everything. And you did not cause many things. You didn't cause very many things at all. And I do see some people who are so hyper responsible that, like the lady picked me up in Boston, I'm sorry it's raining and I wanted you to have a good time. Now, she's being innocent. She's just trying to be gracious, a gracious host. But I had to laugh at the language like, honey, it's raining. So what? I'm not upset about it. I can still have a good time, including it's raining. But for her, she felt like somehow it was her job as the liaison to the company to have good weather and to make sure that I was comfortable, which I appreciated. And I did not, was not upsetting to me in the least. And it stopped raining anyway. And I had a lovely week in Boston that week. Um, Now, if you're taking on couple ways this shows up sometimes is you appear to be more committed to the successes of others than they are, meaning you want it for them more than they want it for themselves. That's one clue. And number two, you get disappointed for people when it's really not your disappointment, and it's okay to have sympathy. It's okay to have empathy. And people also, have to lead their own lives. And so what we look for is a healthy balance between taking as much ownership as you can and having boundaries enough to know what, and the Hawaiian word is kuleana, and Amber uses the word codependency. It's absolutely true. So my brother's joke, and you've heard me say it, I've put it online, that what happens when a codependent dies, and or no, what happened when someone in a codependent's life dies? somebody else's life flashes before their eyes, which I think is funny. Codependency, by definition, is really caring more about the other person than you do about themselves, and being more dependent on their results than they are. And yes, the older, wiser Dr. Scott's joke, and he is excellent and funnier than me. And I get, if you like my sense of humor, his is better. And he, on November 1st, celebrated his 50-year sobriety birthday. So he has been sober from alcohol 50 years. I will be seeing him at Thanksgiving. We're having Thanksgiving at our house. He will bring his chip, and I can't wait to see it. I understand it's gold. It's not, I was expecting like a gold, Olympic gold medal or something. I understand that it's not huge, but it's kind of heavy and it's got a big blue L on it, L for the Roman numeral 50. So I can't wait to see it. I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to post it. So look for it. 50 years in the program. Another funny story. A couple of, I think it was last year, we were going to get together for Christmas. And he says, "No, I'm going to an AA thing for Christmas at the local Alano Club." And oh, Amber's 7 years and Joshua Hayduk is 105. So congratulations, you two. It's a big deal. Sobriety is a wonderful celebration of all that. Very excited. And he said, "No, we're not going to join you for Christmas. We're going to an AA thing." And he says, because he's been going to the same AA group or groups for 50 years. He's lived in the same town and he has sponsored maybe thousands of people at this point. He has been a chemical dependency counselor, and as a psychologist, his whole field was what he calls chemical dependency, substance use disorders, and things like that. Very highly decorated, highly successful psychologist in substance use, right? And so, and I'm joking with my sense of humor. I said, "So you're going to, what's that like? Are you like the oldest sober person?" He goes, "Pretty much. I'm the oldest, like at every meeting, I'm pretty much the oldest sober person." So I said, "So at this Christmas thing, what's it going to be? Is it like a meeting?" He goes, "Well, we'll do a meeting, but it's mostly a dinner, a celebration, it's a potluck. We're going to get together. It's kind of like church. We're going to get together at our Alano Club, which is typically a place where AA meetings are held." He said, "It's not really a meeting. It's a celebration for Christmas, and we're going to, do what we do. We'll probably have a small meeting. No big deal." I said, "Like how many people?" He goes, "There could be hundreds there." And I said, in my irreverence, and I have been in and around the 12-step program my whole life, really, since I was a teenager because of my brother. And I said, "Well, do they have like a special um, platform for you, or do you have to sit on a special chair? Do you have a special hat with a plume, or do you?" And he's just taking this. His wife is looking kind of, intently at me, and he's just nodding his head in the very dry, flat, Sigmund Freud, Dr. Scott way. And he laughed and he goes, "That sounds really good. The platform and the throne and the scepter and the orb and the tiara and the cape." And he said, "But that sort of defeats the anonymous purpose of Alcoholics Anonymous," which I thought was very cute. He said, "Trust me, they all know me. I'm a fixture. I've been around. I need no special recognition." But he meant it. He was not offended by my humor. He said, "No." He said, "Everybody knows me," but he said, "Yeah, it's anonymous, and so we don't go around telling everybody out in the community, oh, so and so is this," and that's the whole anonymous part, which I really, really like. And to date, in all of my treatment modalities, AA and 12 step is still the most effective, really, because it is peer supported and it's self determined and it's free and it's everywhere. I live in Las Vegas. Our Las Vegas central office, there is literally, I always say literally when I'm going to be really kind of exaggerating, but I believe 24 hours a day here in Las Vegas, you can find a meeting for any dependency. Gamblers, Coda, Alateen, Al-Anon, Narcanon, on and on and on, on and on and on. Alcoholics. I mean, certainly there's more AA meetings, but there's so many other interesting meetings. And we have a wonderful central office number, and now they're online, and now they're on Zoom, and any time of the day or night. Because Las Vegas, the other thing about living in Minnesota is I do halftime, and I was in Kauai last week. They roll up the sidewalks there about 6 p.m. And I'm used to Las Vegas, where uh, Looking at the does. Oh, 90 days, 90 ways, just today, just for today. Yeah. He does need a hat. 7 years ago, a stranger at a meeting gave me a 27-year coin he earned in Las Vegas. Yeah. Great. It's awesome. It's a wonderful program. And as they say, there's so many cliches for those of you that are in the program. If you, you know, it works if you work it one day at a time, and so on. And the reason why it works is because it is grassroots, and it is peer supported, and it's free. And that doesn't. That's not to say that there isn't recidivism. There is addiction, by definition. There's going to be relapse, and we plan for it, and we know it. And it is like I said to my guy, yesterday that I saw. Um, he had relapsed, and he's coming back into treatment, and he was sort of expecting some judgment from me. And I said, "You're not going to get any judgment." And I said, "It's your life. How are you doing?" He said, "Well, it's been really rough. Bout of homelessness, things like that." And it's a very empowering. And what I love about AA and all of the 12 steps is that it's very personally affirming and done well. And I don't now, boundary violations abound everywhere, but what I love about the true intent of the 12 step is that you got to work your program. There's a lot of support for you to do it, but they can't do it for you. And that's what I really appreciate about it, is that there's nowhere to hide. You do it when you're ready. You do it when you're not ready. Just do it. And you just work the steps. And I've lost track. I don't know how many times, but I remember the day when I was a teenager when my brother came home. I think it was step 4, step 5. And he sat my mom and my sister and I down. And he goes, "Okay, here it is. Making amends. What's it called? Forgive me. 12 steppers, fearless moral inventory." So, and me, from a psychological point of view, and as a therapist, it's a really wonderfully self-evaluative tool. And Amber needs therapy for AA. That's awesome. I love it. Okay, so locus of control. Where is it? How much responsibility can you take? So this is all the way back to if you have stuff coming up, it's yours. Sorry, it's yours. It may be because of the traffic or the person or the job or the family member or the trauma. And if it's in your face, and that's hence the release processes last night was really about just asking your unconscious mind to surface whatever it is, even letting go of the content and just letting go of the energy of negativity held in anger, sadness, fear, guilt, limiting decisions, limiting beliefs, internal conflicts, karmic patterns, core wounds, and that's what we did, and that's what we'll do again. Um, the release process is not conscious, and I think that's the other thing I want to impart today as we conclude. You don't need to relive the experience, and in fact, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a live class here in Las Vegas on Ho'oku and Ho'oponopono. So here at a training center here in Las Vegas, I'll be doing a 90-minute class with a group of people, pre-registered, and under the guise of, okay, let's just let it go. And there'll be two processes. One is the ho'oku that we did last night, which is the Hawaiian release process, and then we'll be doing ho'oponopono, which is the forgiveness exercise, the code of forgiveness in the Hawaiian culture, which is to really make neutral any negativity held by virtue of another person, living or dead. And I have a lot of people that come into the office that are grieving their lost loved ones, and still are hanging on to old things that have been long since passed. And so we'll be doing that tomorrow. All right. So I think that will be enough. I'm just looking through any other questions. The 13 steppers and Bible pushers love me because I don't have my center yet. Good for you. Know anyone who needs a roommate or a maid? I'll sell and jet now. That's awesome. Thank you, Amber. The only complaint, the biggest complaint, I'm not going to say the only complaint, the biggest complaint I get about 12 step is the spirituality component. Some people get a little fussy about the whole higher power thing. And that's okay. There are other more Buddhist based uh, things, that I know Josh has some experience with. There are other types of treatment modalities. And I'm even seeing in my readings of the big book and things like that, because it's in its umpteenth edition. It is much less Jesus-y and godly than it was 20, 30 years ago. They have really kind of numbed it down to not, not fair, not numbed it down or dumbed it down, but they're trying to make it it's faith-based. You have to believe in something greater than yourself, and I love that. I buy that. Josh, if you look up recovery dharma, if you're interested in a non denomination, but Dharma, by its nature, is a Buddhist word, which means collection, teachings, school, path, if you will. And so pick your poison, pick your challenge. Um, it takes great faith to overcome our own obstacles. And so I'll leave you with that. I wish you all the best. And Amber is newly Buddhist. We'll look that up. My sponsor is cool. She's Buddhist. I'm Buddhist. And so I wish you all the best, and we will see you next week. Have a great day.